Welcome to D-Vlog and Devolution magazine, and to you, Eugene. Your new album, Buñuel. Now, I've got to get this right. Mansuetude? Mansu.
Mansitude.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's out on Skin Draft, Overdrive on the 25th of October. Eugene S. Robinson, thanks for talking to me.
Thanks for having us. I drove like completely unsafe to get here in time.
Oh, thank you
Uh,
so much. Thank you
yeah,
so much. So I'm going to kick off by saying you're a journalist and an
yes.
author
Yeah.
and a fighter
Yeah.
and what I regard as a punk rock legend. So the pressure here is quite big here, but you're quite prolific. You've done like tons of stuff. How do you cram it all in?
Well, first of all, I just came from training, so the guys I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu with would laugh to hear you describe me as a fighter, but they're wrong. I have done that. I got a 9-2 record from underground, kind of cage stuff. We had this fight club thing in San Francisco that actually got infiltrated by the San Francisco Chronicle and that killed the fight club. So they did exist, they were existing, and so that was a fairly fun engagement, at least. Around the time I turned 40, but I don't sleep a lot. So and it's not because I'm an insomniac, but it's because actually Bukowski said something that has stuck in my head and has been kind of emblematic for everything I've done. And he said, nobody who is worth a damn has ever been able to write in peace. So all these writers I know are like, oh, I need to, I can't, I can't. And there's pretty much no excuse for non-performance. And I know I'm in trouble when I start to forget things
Mm.
because I don't write anything down because I'm too paranoid to write stuff down. So if I'm starting to miss things, then I figure I need to back off a bit, maybe slow down a little bit. And all it needs is for like one thing in the system to go wrong. Like for example, I did a song with that guy Soothsayer, the band Soothsayer, and at one point they went to put out the record. They were like, "Do you have the lyrics?" And that was it. That was like stumbling down like a snowy hill, and at the bottom I was a huge snowball because not only did I not have the lyrics, when I gave them the lyrics, I say, hold on to these lyrics because I can't keep track of them. I can generate them, I can sing them, can't keep track of them. And fortunately, as luck would have it, I actually did have it in a sent email to them so we could find the lyrics. But one thing like that's half a day gone with me looking for it, screwed up the whole system. So I really need everything to happen in coordination to get everything that to happen on time. So
Of course, you've written a book about fighters.
yeah,
Yeah, how does that
we were just
dynamic?
banned in the UK. No, HarperCollins UK declined to release it, so it's made its
Oh,
way in.
really? Oh.
Made its way in as an import. But the head of HarperCollins UK called me and said, we have a problem with knife violence here. I was like, so if you put this book out, are you ready to go in front of British Parliament and explain the 10 deaths that came as a result of people buying this book? I go, it's not a how-to guide. She goes, we're not doing it, which is too bad because we could have sold a
Uh,
million. So
well, I was gonna say, how does that your understanding of combat like play into your live performance, your or just any performance you do? Like, is it important? Is it a tool?
well, I think the reality of it is the guys who have done it for a long time actually have there's a great movie where some guy these guys are in prison and they're trying to describe what it means to have an edge.
Mm,
And the guy says, all an edge is, kid, is something that you got that the other guy ain't got. And in my instance, I think without 7 days a week of training, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, without 2 days a week of CrossFit, without running, there's no way I could do the kind of shows that my spirit dictates it that I want to do.
yeah.
And it's funny, like all the cats. I mean, you're right. I've been doing this for a long time, long enough so that when it was punk rock that we were doing, there were behind the hand snickers at those jocks.
Mm.
Well, you know what? A lot of those people who laughed are dead, and there are a lot of things worse to do than to go jogging just to stay in shape. In fact, Harley Flanagan from Cro-Mags, in the forward to my memoir that just came out, walk across dirty water and straighten the murderer's row, said that the first thing he ever noted about me was that I was fit, which was a rarity back then. Of course, the first thing I noted about him was that he was 10 years old and drumming at a nightclub when I was 16. I was like, what's that little kid doing here? I'm completely wasting my time. Look at this kid. So, there are always people around to make you feel like you're an underachiever. So,
Yeah. No, as a 46-year-old, I can definitely feel that. Um,
yeah. So the fighting, but it doesn't inform it in any serious aesthetic way.
mm.
It is just, but I mean, or maybe this is the most serious aesthetic thing, to be able to completely have all of the tools at your, of your design at your command, right? So
Yeah, because the reason why I brought that up is because listening to your latest album, it's very physical. It's a very
yeah,
physical record, and that's why I thought maybe there's a thing going on there. I mean, you have an amazing bunch of players with you. One thing that also hit me was there's a lot of like groove in this record.
yeah,
There is a lot of
yeah,
shake your ass to this record, which is
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
it's not a
yeah, and
new
not
thing for you. It's a new thing for Buñuel. It's like,
Man, well, we wanted to. I mean, this was with the title change and everything else. I wanted there to be a serious but aesthetically pleasing demarcation between the trilogy and this next record. Even though I know a lot of people who come to Mansitude will never have heard Killers Like Us or A Resting Place for Strangers, but in my mind, it was necessary to have it be a sort of punctuation.
mm,
And there's this guy Ibn Arabi who wrote this book, The Bezels of Wisdom, and he talks about shining a dirty mirror. And eventually, you shine a dirty mirror so much so that you don't even perceive that it's a mirror anymore. And I think that's kind of what Buñuel is about, kind of refining our understanding of what Buñuel is. But in this instance, in this instance, I think that I was interested in using my voice in a different way than I have, you see, with Oxbow or with anything else, and also to not be afraid of. And I found myself emotionally in a position where I felt like groove was what the song demanded, you know,
mm, mm,
um, you know, in a really fundamental way. It. I don't want to call it pop, but it's what it demanded, and also within the realm of our abilities. Let me be more specific. My abilities. Yeah. So I mean, I used to say in the old days, I can actually sing, and people would go, yeah, yeah. But just because I choose not to, like Bob Dylan said, I could sing better than Pavarotti if I wanted to, but I just don't want. He said Caruso. I can sing better than Caruso if I wanted to, but I just don't want to. I think about that a lot.
It's funny because there is a tonality that's underneath your singing that is really so soulful,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
and does speak to of course you can sing, like it's
yeah.
it's it's there. You know what I
Well,
mean?
I got scared. I think I got scared from the first Whipping Boy record, which was a hardcore record, and then we sort of made a terrible kind of commercial miscalculation where we said these people are obviously Whipping Boy fans. They don't give a shit what we do, and we're gonna do what we want to do. And we put out this record, Muru Muru, which was like jumping out of a speeding train for a lot of people. They just felt disor. It was terribly received, and we always felt, which strangely enough, we just remixed it and we're looking for somebody to put it out because remixed now it makes sense to people, but back then it didn't. But I remember being Albini put it best. He goes, if you go to buy toilet paper and they give you sandpaper, you're going to be a little pissed off. Bit by bit, I've been trying to migrate my vocals to the apotheosis of what vocally I could do without being cheeseball. I don't want to sound like Ronnie James Dio, but I do. There is something that I'm hearing in my head that I'm doing when I sing in front of a mic that's recorded for Buñuel that I'm not hearing anywhere else. So
That's awesome. I mean, is there a through line lyrically on this record? Is there a theme?
yeah, yeah. Somebody asked me that the other day. It's like they said, well, you compared it to the Freudian id, and I was like, yeah, that's just me trying to avoid the question. The question is like, as like say Oxford got more refined, the elements of my life that made a lot of the darker stuff possible didn't really recede. Oh, here we
Mm.
go. Oh, hold on. This is a positive
Oh,
element in my life.
hello.
Now talk about disjunction that didn't really recede. In fact, a lot of the people that I used to do business with were getting out of prison at the same time. So, yeah, the occasion for the lyrics on Mansitude, um, I had about three people who got out of prison, and the first thing they did I thought was really funny. They called me, and I wasn't ever sure why. One was like the crystal meth king of Oklahoma. Come on, get out with the germs. One was a murderer. Two were murderers, and so these stories that like in my first novel, A Long Slow Screw, I kind of dealt with the New York version of these. My California peeps, these have just been bouncing around inside my head. And when I heard the Buñuel music,
Mm,
it was I don't want to. I'm going to use a word and it's going to be simply understood, but you have to understand and the full expanse of this word. When I heard the Buñuel music for Mansitude, it was it was mean.
mm,
And I go, oh, do I have words for this? So it allowed me to be able to have gain some kind of perspective on both my friendship with them, my time with them, and I mean, you got to make space for that in a weird way. One of the guys killed somebody and then decided, in order to avoid punishment, he wanted to make it seem like a psycho had done it. So he
mm,
mutilated the body. And of course, a psycho had done it, right? Yeah,
mm.
him. So, had to make space for this stuff in my mind. And I
Absolutely.
had a vehicle for doing it. So,
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, another hardcore legend and personal hero of mine, Jacob Bannon, turns up on this record,
yeah.
which is incredible.
Also,
Um,
another fighter. Did you know
oh,
this?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
another physical performer.
Yeah, yeah, he's in
Yeah,
shape. He does Muay Thai and actually used to be an MMA ref. I interviewed him for like Bloody Elbow, which was used to be a fight website out here. It was to get
right.
us straight, because we knew each other from music, but I had no idea.
Oh,
And he
wow.
wasn't he wasn't he, actually in a weird way, he wasn't super forthcoming about it. It was like I always felt like, is this a secret? Does nobody know this? And I think he just was like, that's the other side of my life. I knew something was up if I went to one of his pages or something, and I was like, just too many guys with cauliflower ear. I go, these look like my pictures. So, but it
That's
was.
amazing.
I was like a high school, like a junior high kid, because I really love Converge so much, and
Oh,
I wanted him on it, but then I was like terrified that he would say no. So I was really happy that he had said yes. So
that's amazing. And
yeah,
also another legend, you got Dwayne Dennison of
yes.
Jesus the Lizard, who have just made their big comeback as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
Timing wise, couldn't have
with
been
an
better.
incredible record.
Yeah.
Yeah, stellar class, man. Does it just fall
Well,
together naturally, or was that?
well, my first in-person meeting with him, I was about to punch him in the face. So
Oh,
that's it. She hears it so much. Yeah. And they actually somebody caught it on photo, and he was probably saved by Kevin Rudamanis, who was like, "Oh my God, Eugene's here! I love this guy!" And so it was ego revenge, and ego won out. And I was like, which I've told Dwayne since, but then we toured together when he was in USSA. Then we played together. I think we played with Jesus Lizard a couple times before they broke up. And then he wrote a bunch of stuff for me at EQ magazine when I was editor in chief of the magazine. And then most recently, I was advocating that Gang of Four. I did the liner notes for that big box set that they put out a couple of years ago.
oh,
And I was
amazing.
really pushing heavily. I said, who are you going to get to be a guitar player? They're like, we have it to site. And so I just start on just said, this is my moment. Start pushing really hard for Dwayne. And then I figured maybe I should call him and tell him I've done this. So then I called him and said, hey, man, this is what I've done. I don't know if you're interested at all. He's like, yeah, I'd be interested. So, he didn't get the gig. I saw that they're playing together in Austin, which I thought was very cool. But I think he, wanted to maybe pay it forward, or he just liked me or just liked the song and wanted to do it. But I was super happy to have him on it, as well as Megan O from Couch Slut.
Oh,
It's
yeah, yeah.
I've been wanting to do more collaborations over time, but weirdly, I mean, kind of Oxbow was in a position where we were doing fewer, so I was like, okay, well, but
Gotcha.
this was really fun for me to be able to do other singers and players. It's kind of why I do it.
Well, mansutude, right? So I've looked this up. It means gentleness or meekness, right?
Mhm.
Um, this album certainly isn't either. So, but is it? Is there a hidden meaning I'm missing here?
Yeah, I think, I mean, and this is where it kind of sublingually ties into kind of martial arts, right?
Hmm,
Most of the guys I know who are really good are gentle people, right?
right.
That's what training 7 days a week affords you, you know. And some guy, Nate from U.S. Christmas, at one point, he met me for the first time and he wrote about it on. I saw it on his blog, and he was like, "Man, like I bumped into Eugene and caused him to stop it. I'm talking to him." Caused me to spill my drink on him. And he goes, I was tense. I didn't know. He thought, and I was like, no, man. I mean, you didn't do it on purpose. Why would I? Even if you did it on purpose, what am I gonna? Why? Because you just be like, come on. I'm an easygoing guy. Or like I say in my in my Facebook description, I got a sunny disposition, and and I think the songs are also pretty sunny that way. Or like my wife says sometimes, just because Eugene's smiling doesn't mean something good is going to happen. So in general, as I've gotten better at martial arts, have gotten kinder and more forgiving and gentler. Paradoxically, while being 10 times more dangerous than I was, say, 10 years ago. And I
Yeah.
think the lyrics sort of reflect that on the face of it. You know, sometimes words are just words. You know, just talking
Mm.
about riding through the Hollywood Hills, with a friend of mine named Dutch to collect some money. On the face of it, that's just a normal day in Hollywood, right? But the impact of what we're actually doing, um, I think I said to a guy once, if you weren't in trouble, we wouldn't be here. And I think that really kind of sums up the lyrics and the lyrical attack on Mansitude. If you weren't in trouble, we wouldn't be here. So
Love it.
yeah,
Love it. Absolutely love it. Because I was comparing and contrasting it to Easy Way Out,
yep,
is a harsh record. Like,
yep,
it's, sonically, I mean, great. I love it, but it's not an easy, one to get on
yep.
with. This one definitely feels a lot easier, but not in the fact that it compromises in any way at all. And you've definitely never compromised in any way at all. How does the notion of being seen as like a punk rock icon sit with you these days?
Well, I don't know, because the punk rock community as it exists now doesn't embrace me. So I
Right.
mean, and I knew that I think it was around the time of an Oxbow put out an Evil Heat that I approached Tony from Fat Records to say, maybe you could put out the new Oxbow record, and he was like, um, Oxbow is not punk enough, and I had realized it was a genre that had suddenly that that did not include me in its pantheon, which I thought,
Hmm.
how what are you talking? How I didn't understand at all what he meant. But then I started paying attention to things like the Warp Tour, and I was like, oh, I see. Oh,
Yeah,
with
no,
the
no.
kids,
Yeah.
I gotcha. So my punk rock icon status. I mean, I've always been in it,
Mm.
but not of it, right? I mean,
Right.
you know, so I did a Penny Rambeau from Crass. I did something with him at Supersonic, and it was a real study in contrast. He's a
Mm.
bright guy, and I kind of liked being on it, but he was talking in a way that I don't know. It's like you're trying to talk to Biafra in 2024. Now, oh, the government does bad, man. I was like, man,
Right.
I'm an adult. I thought save that for disaffected 15-year-olds. That's cool, but I've evolved punk rock, and so the punk rock that stands now is not interesting. In fact, all the guys who know me from hardcore, the weirdest thing ever was they just never understood or accepted any music I did after Whipping Boy. They were
Right.
just like, it's like I had a drug problem. It's like, yeah, Eugene, he's doing this other thing. And some of them three of them actually broke down and came to see some of my latter musical stuff happen. They were like, oh man, we really slept on it. it took him that long to understand what was happening. So I don't.
Right.
So my perception of my punk rock icon standing, it only comes up every now and then when people put out that Bad Brains video
Mm.
uh, from 1982, and they see me in the audience on that Black Flag video at Henry's first show, and they're like, "Is that you in the audience?" I was like, "Yeah." What? Yeah. How could you think I wouldn't be in the audience? I've been listening to this stuff since 1977. Get out
Yeah,
of
my
there.
man. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's funny actually because my place at the magazine is to write about that weird shit.
uh-huh.
And, you know, it's
Yeah,
fine.
man.
I'm cool with
Yeah, yeah.
that.
No, no. I mean, it's still. I mean, I've been on a jag there recently. Me and the kid. She's a big Rancid fan, so I got to listen to Rancid.
Cool, man.
And I got four daughters, and she's the only one who's actually sort of dug on music coming from my neck of the woods. So she said, "Play Ruby Soho." I was like, "Okay, it's good pop
Oh
music."
man, it's
Yeah,
a jam.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, at one point I was complaining about the world that the Descendants created because I think they largely don't get enough credit for actually having generated what I see as pop punk, which is a Warp
Mm,
Tour, Sum 41, because the guy's got the book out, his name is in my head, and Blink 182 and all these bands I don't listen to really. I don't
mm.
listen to them out of contempt. I just don't. I've not
No,
heard anything that interested me. So
yeah, man. But I mean, everything you've done to this point, I mean, it's pretty much genreless. I would say definitely on this album.
yeah,
It kind of disregards genre a bit. So what was that notion of like being genreless mean to you? Like, because like I just got back from Supersonic Festival like a
yeah,
couple of weeks ago,
yeah,
and I'm hearing a lot of stuff that I would regard as some people would say arty or out there, but I would just call it genreless.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, at a certain point, if you're gonna make a festival like like Supersonic, you will have done something to get yourself noticed by Lisa. Um,
Mm,
I still want to say Lisa and Jenny, and Lisa is an old head and has heard a lot, so it's got to be significantly unique
mm,
for you to get a leg up there. But that's not all, every festival. Roadburn, very specifically,
mm,
has a niche that they work, and that's all they're interested in. And if you mine a genre deep enough and long enough, you can actually get to kind of wild, cool places, like digging down into the earth. You'll
mm,
start to hit weird shit before you go too long. So I think that I think genre is valid,
mm,
as long as that's the direction you're going in. Down, deep, beyond. All of those are good places to be. If you're satisfied with just trying to make some money so you don't have to work another job, then you're like, to paraphrase Kurtz in Apocalypse Now, you're a grocery clerk. You just want a job.
yes,
That's
no.
cool. I mean, I'm always very relaxed about making music because I'm never concerned that somebody's going to write a record out from under us. And we're
Mm,
going to do a record and another record just like it's going to come out, and they're going to go, sounds like, I'm never, ever worried about that. So,
no,
that's what happens
incredible.
when you ford the river between genres. But also we're a product of what we listen to, between
Absolutely.
me and Jabi and Franz and Carlo. We listen to a lot of different stuff, and we different bass player on Mansitude was this guy Andrea Lombardini, who his jazz bona fides were deep and wide. At one point though, he had contributed something to a song. I was like, who put that fucking King Crimson part in there? It sucks. He's like, I'm sorry. It was me. I'll take it out. I was like, it wouldn't be bad. I like the instinct, but if I could identify it as such right off, you might want to make some
Yeah,
alterations. Just
switch it
as
up a
I
little.
don't play. I don't play. I'm suggesting. So,
Oh dear. Right. Uh, yes. So, with releases coming out at
yeah,
the moment from people like Jesus Lizard, Cop Shoot Cop, Unsane, all these are like the turn of the 90s bands that I was like selling in my record shop.
mm.
Um, like I mean, do you think that that early 90s sound is finding a renaissance, or do you not bother yourself with musical trends at all?
Any place there's a tragedy, like when there was the big floods in New Orleans, or now we've
Mm,
had all these hurricanes in the American South. I always imagine homeless people sitting
mm.
out there like Mad Max in Road Warrior. You guys want to get out of here? You come through me. Yeah, we've been here the whole time, living under bridges and eating garbage. You want to know how to do it? Let us show you how to do it. And I largely feel like that's a role that I play musically because I've never left.
Yeah, yeah.
Started my first band in 1980, and I told myself I would stop when I had bested my enemies. I literally had that thought in my head. When I bested my enemies, then I'll stop. And then I realized that that's neither one of those things are ever going to happen. I'm not going to best my enemies, and therefore I'm not going to stop. So I might as well just embrace it and enjoy it for the ride. I mean, it's Albert Speer, famous Nazi architect, had this. He's stolen it from somebody as well, but it was yeah. Everybody gets quiet. You mentioned Nazis. No, he had this theory of ruin, which I've liked, which is the idea that he wanted buildings to look as good in decline as they like the Roman Empire, look as good in decline as they did when they were first built. And I think that's my musical aesthetic ethos. It's like at any given point, I want to be as vital artistically, aesthetically as I can, even though maybe that's not the same thing from 1980 to 2024. Um, I mean, I have to feel, or to quote the Tender Sticks, we're artists, we're sensitive and important. I have to feel that to a certain degree, I'm touching both of those in the creation of what I'm bothering to put out into the world. Otherwise, I don't think I'd bother to do it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Right, couple of quick questions before we bring this up. You have 5 albums in the world to put in a time capsule to teach to future generations. Which 5 albums do you think you put in there?
These could be any albums or
Any
my
albums, any genre, anything.
I would put I'm a big fan of vocals, not guitar players who sing vocals or keyboard players, piano players who sing, but of like pure vocalist. So I would put Arthur Prysock, I would put Billie Holiday, Little Richard, um, the Plasmatics, and Joy Division. I think that would
Amazing.
cover me. Yeah, yeah. So
I mean,
Um, in terms of tone and timbre, I think that those five would cover you. I wrote this novel called A Long Slow Screw, and the entirety of my time writing it, I listened to Lady in Satin, nothing else in the car, in the house, nothing else for about 7 or 8 months. So to be able to do that with a piece of music is rare, and I think it's a real. I wasn't listening. It had not reached nullity. I was still hearing new things in the music. So
that's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Well, so in this culture that we live in, where quite a lot is like disposable, are there artists that are out there, bands or artists, that are giving you hope for the future?
Yeah, and I wish they were more successful. I'm a big, giant, massive fan of your Barry Adamson, who I had the good fortune to appear live with at the Royal Albert Hall as part of the London Jazz Festival. I think he's massively talented and underappreciated. Um, and I listen to him with frequency, with great joy, and feel like I should mention it more. Um, I still have a foot in hardcore, so I really like what both my friends in the Cro-Mags and Agnostic Front are doing. I mean that's when I talk about genre and not turning your nose up at genre. That genre that drills deep, it's not just nostalgia, historic revival stuff. It's like deep, wide, and so um, yeah, and I mean, I don't know. I mean, I listen to like Jamie. I mean, these are friends, but Jamie and Angela from Juju, I really I like the lean, hungry look that comes with like I can't do the same thing twice. I just can't. I can't. I'm constitutionally unable to do this. So these are people that I'm really appreciating. And then some people who I've met recently who I really like, Jim Jones All Stars. I've never
Oh
seen.
man, yeah.
I went to Memphis, Tennessee, and they had me do a couple of songs with them for the new record. And that was like, I had not seen the Hypnotics before, but I really liked. I really liked. I mean, a lot of stuff I like is like mired in genre, but it's just taken a form that's traditional and just blown it out of the water. So I like them as well.
That's incredible. Eugene, it's been an absolute honor to talk to you today. Um, is there anybody you'd like to shout out before we go?
My Substack. That's not a person, but but give it a read. It gives me great pleasure. I do it once a week. It's called "Look What You Made Me Do." I got there before Taylor Swift stole it, making me look like a chump, like I copied her. But it's a fun read if you like reading. And the only reason I mention it in a musical format is because I didn't become a Steve Albini fan because of Big Black or Shellac or Rape Man, or
Mhm.
I became a Steve Albini fan first and foremost through his writing. So it's possible to cross genres. You might get a kick out of it. So um,
Awesome, mate. Awesome. Thank you so much, Eugene.
thank you. Thanks for having me, for staying up. It's a little bit later there, I know, for you. So
It's all good, man. It's all
yeah.
good.
And now I
All
can
right.
take a shower. I'm completely filthy and disgusting from 2 hours of fighting. But so thank you.
Take care, my man.
All right. Bye
You
bye.
know, bye bye.